Hey, what's up? How you doing? Hey, so we're gonna talk about the additions in Plex Guide. So they're not the same. If you're a legacy user, it's probably a little important for you to pay attention to this because some of it may confuse you. If you're brand new, great. You start with a clean slate and everything makes more sense. So basically, Plex Guide in the past, when you used to install this program, in the beginning it would ask you which edition would you like to install. It asks if you'd like to install the GCE edition, which is the Google Feeder edition, in which you can basically deploy Google Cloud instances and use their virtual machines in order to obtain your content or anything else that you want to do. It would ask you if you want to do local, PGBlitz or PGMove. So long story short, we got rid of all that. All of that's installed. So if you install Plex Guide on a box that is GCE, it will know, and what it will do is it will automatically turn into a GCE edition, so you have nothing to worry about. If you want to deploy PGMove or PGBlitz, everything is basically solved by using PGClone. So in the very beginning, it should ask you what version do you want to install. Well, not for the installer, but towards the end, with the final release of 8.6. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into PGClone. I'm going to go ahead and clone it so you can see what I'm talking about. And it's good for you to understand what version that you're deploying. So see, the thing is already selected one. So if you ever want to change versions, you just go to transport select. You choose under options. So here you notice that we have this little pretty simple interface. So in 1 through 4, you're required to utilize Google Drive, basically your G Suite Edition accounts. And then number 5 is local edition. So, well, what is local edition? Just to kind of throw this one out there. That's basically like deploying VPS or deploying, let's say, a Hetzner server with 2 hard drives, because you may be the type of person who doesn't obtain a lot of content, or you just want to, I don't know, just collect a certain movie collection, so that's what the local edition's for. And with the local edition, you're gonna have the ability to merge your drives. That's what it was. It was multi-edition. That was the one we was missing earlier. So in this one, there is no more multi-edition. What you're going to do is you're automatically going to add your multiple drives, and when you deploy, it's going to merge them. And the cool thing now is with 1 through 4, right? The cool thing now is you can actually add your local drives, but they will be read-only. So this comes useful in situations where you're like, oh, I love PGBlitz, and then you're like, oh crap, I got like 70 terabytes of like local data, and I don't want to upload us all to the G Suite for this to work. So there is an upside to uploading it all. It does provide redundancy and backup. You have a 25-day snapshot from Google. A lot of people don't realize that. And I used to have 76 terabytes of hard drives. That was way back in the day. And now I have a quiet little gaming machine where everything talks to your Google Drive. And the cool thing is you can actually take your Google Drive and actually mount it to multiple servers. So you can point the same drive at 3 different servers, and you're pretty much good as day. You don't have nothing to worry about. You can run a light VPS as a backup. You can run a home VM as a backup. So there's a lot of options here for you. So the purpose of this video basically is just to kind of let you know what the differentiations are. So after this, there should be other videos that will follow up, and you can kind of go from there on how to configure it. But just to give you a little bit of background, more information, so you kind of understand how to flow moves. So move unencrypted, very simple to deploy. In this one, all you're going to do is basically set up your Google account, log in, and it's going to move everything to your Google Drive. That's it. And everything still ends up in Mount Union FS. So if you don't know what that is, I'll tell you what it is at the end. Number 2, move encrypted G Drive. So in this one, you're going to set up your same thing, and then it's going to deploy a folder, and it's going to encrypt everything for you. So the cool thing is you don't have to go into rclone to manually screw with everything, right? So if you used Plex Guide a long time ago, you had to, follow a command, and then you had to type everything in correctly, because if you misspelled something, it was a bad day for you. But now with PGClone, the whole method, with the whole method, it's pretty easy to set up. So this utilizes G Drive only, right? But this one also uses a drive called Gcrypt, which is within the G Drive. Make sense? Okay. If you don't, you'll get it over the course of time. So here's where PGBlitz comes into play, which obviously our lovely site here is named after, because we outgrew Plex Guide. So what PGBlitz does is it helps create service accounts. This is why it's a little bit complex. Now, if you're a new user, does this mean it's complex in order to do it? No, it's complex because it requires more than 5 seconds of your attention span, because there's a little bit more involved. But once you do it for the first time, it's pretty easy to do. So it's the same concept as G Drive. Instead of using G Drive, it uses team drives. This is where you truly need a G Suite business account, because that's how you create team drives. What it will do is upload everything to your team drive and call it a day. Now, the cool thing is, you're like, well, I got all my stuff on my G Drive. What's going to happen? Well, with the T Drive edition, you don't have much to worry about. Why? Because when Mount Union FS deploys, it merges all your drives together. And when you use Plex or MB or Jellyfin or whatever you want to use, it's going to merge all those drives and it reads it as one. So it doesn't matter what you have. So here's where the last one is PGBlitz encrypted. Same exact thing, but guess what's the most complicated of them all? Because you're setting up the team drive, and you're also setting up the encryption. But the encryption setup's the same. It does it all for you. You just basically gotta log in and verify your Google account and your team drive account. So I'm gonna pick number 4. We're not gonna install this because there's separate videos for it, but you could see that this is very involved, right? So you got to log in, create a project name, some IDs and labels and blah, blah, blah. And then you have throttling options, which is good. And then here you can see that you can, set up your VFS, your rClone mount. So that makes it a little bit easy. We didn't have that in the past, and this is new to 8.6. There's a demo mode, so if technically I was logged in right now and had this video, it would hide it. You can create accounts, delete all your service keys. So this one's a little bit more involved. Whereas if we go to, went too far out. Okay, forgot, I got to do transport select. Whereas in this one, it's pretty simple. You just put in your client ID and secret, and you verify your G Drive, and then you press A and deploy. The only hard part is basically you got to follow the client ID and secret. So you'll see that in other videos. And the biggest takeaway from PGClone is like, well, which method do I pick in the end? Honestly, if you do not share out your files, the unencrypted edition is great, but you may have that security concern saying, well, what happens if somebody's targeting me? Well, usually you're a target if you make yourself open to the internet. It might also be a good idea if you're also EU resident, Euro resident of the EU, because you know how they are about going after certain people. They haven't done so with drives yet, so that hasn't been an issue. But those are all things that come into play. Be aware that when you switch editions, you're going to have to, basically it's not, it would pretty much be almost all of them in a sense. So if you switch editions, be aware that if you want, like, let's say you got all your data tied up in the G Drive, right? And you want it to go to T Drive and you want it to be encrypted, you're going to have to manually move all that, meaning you're going to have to create a little script and move it. So that's why this video is very imperative in order to pick the right thing the first time. Because we have people who will be like 20 terabytes in, they're like, hey, I want to switch. We're like, yeah, man, it's not a problem, but you're gonna need a little mini script, which is not too hard to do. Members help, but it's gonna have to download all of it and re-upload it. So you're talking about your 20 terabytes of stuff is basically like 40 terabytes of bandwidth, right? And it's not great if you're on a cap server. So if you also want to check out the wiki, feel free to do so, because the wiki will have some information for you in regards to it. So we're gonna go to wiki, and I'm going to fix this up so by the time you see this in the future, not right after the video, because it's pretty fast. But if you go to PG Editions, what we'll do is we'll talk about it. So you can see that this is the old one, and in the past you'll notice changes here. But in the past you had to pick stuff, and everything was more rigid. So everything's a lot better now. So there's the HD edition I was talking about. So last thing, and I know you're busy and you got a lot of things to do. So if we go to 10, the multi HD. This is where you're going to go to. So you can utilize the multi HD within the settings of whatever you're using, or you can use it in settings at the main point. But here's where you're going to be able to add your multiple hard drives. Just be aware that these drives are only writable if you're using the local edition, which makes sense, right? And then if for some reason you want to mount them as additional drives for your other editions, you can. And all you got to do is set everything here, and then when you deploy your edition, you're pretty much good to go. So other than that, I hope you had a good time. You learned something. Please like and subscribe. It really does help us grow. If you could do me a favor too, visit our GitHub and start this lovely project. So you can't see it in the mobile, but if you can start, Got to keep going. There it is right there. So if you can start, that does help promote us. Feel free to donate, be part of the forum, the community, whatever you want to do. This is a learner's project, and we accept everything and anything. You have a good one.